Well, hello. I'm glad to see some folks over here from the Big Nose of London's channel. It's a treat, actually. It's really cool. Welcome, everyone. Let me see. Let me give the gospel, the usual suspects here. The Wizard's Words. Very cool. And I liked we were just on panel together over at the Big Nose channel, and very cool look, by the way. That was very sleek, in my opinion. Slim. Lorraine. I remember you from last night. Wow, look at this. Whoever I want to be, I've seen you all over the place. Who am I leaving out? Okay. All right. Okay, so yeah, basically today I'm just what can I say? First, let me just tell you, since you guys are new to this channel, some of you are, let me just quickly tell you a little bit about myself. Yeah, what can I say? I'm an author, unpublished, unfortunately, one of those, working on that. Working mostly on children's book. I do have a nonfiction published, but that's not really worth mentioning. I'll just leave it at that. Also have... what else? Yeah, content creators, you guys see, teachers I mentioned earlier, and I've been trying to get this PhD stuff on Hollywood, basically how Hollywood has portrayed Christianity for this past half century, and this is a quantitative empirical research. Of course, it's quantitative, so it's basically items that you can see for yourself, which is I do an extension of that here on things that I don't cover in that research, but I'm having some what may be political issues continuing that. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, wow. This crowd appreciate it. Okay, so yeah, without further ado, let me go ahead and just do a quick reprise of last night. Yesterday, it was the 23rd anniversary of 9/11. I know that seems silly to some, but that was a huge turning point in, yeah, exactly, whoever I want to be. Yeah, we're covering grooming tonight. That's definitely one part of the subject with turning red. Yeah. At any rate, yeah, so 9/11, yeah, it was just, well, without further ado, let's just look at the pictures. We're going to do like a moment of silence. I'm just going to not say anything and go through these slides. It's about a dozen of them. And then we'll get into the turning red, the rest of the conversation. Okay. So yeah, as mentioned before in the stream on the Big Nose of London's channel, um, I'm seeing patterns here with BRICS and how they're just taking over every facet of global economics. And I mean, you're looking at China and it's having a military presence everywhere, but just buying everything up. So it feels like, I mean, it feels like China's kind of heading the charge there, even though there's some powerhouses here. I mean, Brazil's kind of talked about a lot, but Russia, you know, has been historically a powerhouse. But yeah, China has really, really gotten its teeth into everything, every aspect of life worldwide, including media, by the way. So we can look up the nations. There was a list shared with me. It's a wiki, though. So, but yeah, you can look it up yourself how many nations on there. Originally, it was just, as you see, 5 nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And these are all petrol-rich nations, it just so happens. And they're all, by the way, pagan nations. It just so happens. Got to put that out there as a Christian. But yeah, they're making. I mean, just at the beginning of the year, it was only like about 12 nations. They just included another 5 or 6 nations. But from what the wiki that was just shared, and thank you for that again, by the way. Yeah, it's a slew of them. And I know about 2 years ago there was like 40 nations that were lining up to join. It's alarming. But yeah, enough of that. 9/11. So this is the World Trade Center before it was attacked, and we all know who attacked it. Yeah, yeah. So just doing a little moment of silence. I know that's a little weird, but I felt it necessary because of the levity of what we're talking about here. And yeah, this is a perfect comment, you know. And Rain, I saw your comment about the pagan nations. My assessment of BRICS being mostly pagan. I'm going to try to zip through it. I do have to be on another channel in about an hour, but I'll try to zip through this presentation. If you'd like to come up at the end of that and discuss that, that would be great. or anyone else wants to come up. Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, it's just, you would think that after 9/11, and even before 9/11, anyone that's half educated knows the history of Islam. Unfortunately, again, as an educator, I've seen firsthand how public school history books, I mean, this is a fact, folks. Public school history books in America are around the turn of the century dedicated an entire 2 paragraphs to the history of the Middle East. 2 paragraphs. History of the Middle East. What are you going to say in 2 paragraphs? What is that, like a Twitter meme or something? So there was an obvious, even in public school education system, an obvious cover-up of what was going on in the Middle East. Things were changing in the 90s drastically. But before then, World War II drastically changed a lot of things. And that's something I posed in this slide. Some people celebrated the destruction of the Christian St. Nicholas Orthodox Church at Ground Zero. And that's tragic. Even some other Christians, unfortunately. Yeah, but at any rate, I mean, all these people know the history, know the current events, or at least they should, but there's been a drastic change, a cover-up. World War II, we established a state of Israel. We did not give Constantinople back to the Christians. Why is that? I mean, that's huge, huge. But why is that? I mean, anyone in the chat, can anyone answer that question? Why was Israel established, the state of Israel, but Constantinople was not given back to the Greeks, to the Christians? I'd love to have that conversation. So, yeah, World War II was a game changer. But then, the turn of the century was starting with Y2K. Then 9/11, what we just shared, was huge, not only for the United States, but worldwide. And then, yeah, the 2 weeks of shutting things down, or actually it was 1 week, but technically it was 1 week. Some places less of 2 weeks. That destroyed the economy, an economy that was already suffering. We're already in a recession at that time. But that had ripple effects worldwide. And then there was the U.S. bailouts, speaking of ripple effects, economic ripple effects worldwide, and then so on. And then that brings us to the lockdown. But I don't want to get off on too many tangents, but there's a pattern here. Mostly how we've been allowing this stuff to transpire. Forgive me, but the lockdown showed that we are part of the problem. Yeah, we're self-policing, for example, on media. We're policing each other. It's a problem. All right. So this is a movie, Turning Red, 2022, a Disney movie. There was a lot of typical or standard Hollywood things being done. What people now refer to as CRT, whatever that's worth. I mean, this has been going on. My research is covering that. This has been going on since the beginning of Hollywood, actually. And I encourage everyone to take a look at my previous live streams. I'm giving you guys, as you can see at the bottom here, at the 19-minute marker, the exact time for you, so you can see for yourself. This is not just me pretending, making things up, but look for yourself what's being said, right? And so, again, yeah, as far as indigenous and natives, yeah, I have nothing against indigenous and natives. That's one thing. But it's another to turn that into a war cry, a propaganda against the quote-unquote Europeans. Yeah. Why is it, by the way, that when it comes to the word colonialism, only the Europeans are guilty of colonialism? Is that true? What do you guys think? Is it only the Europeans that are guilty of colonialism? Yeah. But according to media, only the Europeans are. Any other nation that encroaches upon or invades or occupies another nation, that's not colonialism. But when the Europeans did it in a specific time, all of a sudden that's a problem. And I'm not saying, I'm not excusing any misbehavior, but yeah, that's a problem. Absolutely. I mean, I want to say everyone in history colonized. I don't know if that's true, but A lot certainly did. But for some reason, only the Europeans are labeled that way. At the 33-minute marker. Okay, so this is a grassroots movement, this whole hip-hop thing. You know, when I was young, I loved hip-hop. You know, some Jazzy Jeff, Fresh Prince, and Young MC. I mean, Fat Boys. I know I'm like dating myself here, but whatever. But things changed again, especially in the 90s. The thug culture that was a subculture that was private became popularized. Not so much with Beastie Boys, but definitely with Vanilla Ice. He certainly made it mainstream. And then the rest followed. And all of a sudden, you can't even speak against thug culture without being called a racist. That's insane. Look at what they did to Bill Cosby. Yes, I said he was victimized. The man went to 2 universities. He's got a PhD, by the way. Boston University gave a speech. And he gave a speech to the predominantly black university. And all of a sudden, he's being called a racist, a horrible person for saying that, you know, you need to have integrity and approach life and others with self-respect and respect for them. And all of a sudden, he's an enemy of the state. And it did some things illegally, including overlooking the statute of limitations to put him in jail immediately afterward. This is a man who did all kinds of things for blacks. His very first movie was about, speaking of indigenous people, a movie where he was, as a slave, a black slave, was migrating with his son to the West. So at his very first movie, he's doing this kinds of things. And then all these movies he did in the 70s. I mean, look at the Cosby. He had 2 Cosby shows, by the way. The most notable one was of the 90s, where showed black people not being poor, like, you know, good times. But yeah, all kinds of things. And so he got slandered all kinds of ways because he said you need to have integrity. He gave the same speech to both universities, but it was only a problem. They made an example of him, is what that was. It's disturbing. And black people, by the way, are disgusted by all that. I don't know how many of you actually have any black friends. I do. And they're embarrassed by it. Not even disgusted. They're embarrassed by this. But you get some white people that, you know, want to be hypocrites and all that, want to go on and push this mass media rhetoric. They want to parrot this stuff and want to, quote, hate on the Europeans, the quote Europeans. Only the Europeans are evil. It's horrendous. And by the way, I encourage you guys to watch Chad O'Jackson. He does one on Sunday evenings. Brilliant stuff. Political. I'm not a fan of the politics, but they're right on. And yes, they're very proud of their black culture. In fact, they did an entire stream about how black culture is going to take over the world. So they're not, you know, Uncle Toms or anything of that effect. So that's absurd. All right. So standard emasculation. All right, we've got somebody on. I really wanted to hold off until the end of the presentation. Salvador, would that be all right if I wait till the end of the presentation? I've got like about 30 more slides, which is a lot, but I'll make it a point to not get off on tangents. I really want to get through this, if that's all right, before I bring you up. All right, so standard emasculation. This goes way back, way back. And I've got a short on that about how allegedly women never had any major Hollywood roles or things like that. That's asinine. From the very beginning, they had major roles, at least supporting roles. But from the mid-20th century on, they had roles or movies dedicated about them and their characters and as heroines. So that's an absolute lie. And again, you can see for yourself in this short, a 1 minute short that goes through an entire Rolodex of examples. And never mind Whoopi Goldberg. Oh, anyway. Yeah, and so the 16-minute marker. He's being condescended, like he's some kind of unwanted stepchild. The father here. This is the father character, of course. And you can imagine who's in charge and throughout the entire movie. At the 18-minute marker, he's always portrayed as incompetent. At the 23-minute marker, this Sikh is like being kicked in the shin. and he's the security guard, by the way, at this public school. Ain't that a hoot? At the 39-minute marker, he's not even allowed to talk about the upbringing of his own daughter without being silenced. She asks him his opinion and shuts him up immediately as soon as he starts talking. At the 1 hour and 28-minute marker, again, he's always being hushed up, and he's being, paraded around as comic relief. Let's laugh at the father. I see this throughout all kinds of movies, especially in the 21st century. But yeah, even at the end of the movie, in the mid-scenes trailer, they do the same thing where he's like, dressed up all goofy and singing the boy band song. All right, so this was mentioned, the grooming, and this is what this movie is known about. Thank you, Salvador. Okay, so, look at this, man. Does this not remind you of Islam? Is it no wonder why people that are conditioned by this stuff, quote, show solidarity, end quote, with Islam? So 13 is an adult, according to Turning Red. 13 is an adult. I know Robert Frost wrote a poem about that, too. I don't want to get into that because I know some people get their feathers ruffled if I get into that conversation. But, yeah, man, like, come on. Adult? Seriously? Not even young adult or whatever? But that's significant. Let's keep going. Okay, at the 32-minute marker. And I know this is going to ruffle some feathers here, but sodomy is sodomy. And when I say sodomy, I mean sodomy across the board. Eddie Murphy put it well. He had a stand-up routine. I think it was maybe in Raw. This one was probably in Raw. I could be wrong. One of the routines. At any rate, he's talking about how, in this case, he's talking about homosexuals, guy on guy. He's like, hey, you know what? How can one man look at another man's hairy ass and go, oh, man, I need to get some of that? Come on. But, the sodomy is sodomy. How can anyone in their right mind go, oh, a poopy hole, I need to get in that? Come on, man. What is wrong with some people? Forgive me. I know I'm sounding like some kind of extremist square over here, but there's something wrong there. It could be mass. I want to blame mass media for that one. I could be wrong. Porn and all that. Who knows? All right, it's 26-minute marker. What happened? Yeah. So this is so basically now the daughter is turning into a red panda, and this is supposed to be symbolic of her menopausal state. She's becoming a woman, as the ID badge showed. I apologize. I'm not catching all the comments here. Oh boy, my forgiveness. I should get a whatchamacallit. All right, so yeah, but is this appropriate? Again, everyone's watching this movie, all ages. Is this a conversation to be had by Walt Disney, Pixar, or is it between child and parent? Okay, and how is this okay? Let's get real. What's going on here? A bump, or are they bumping and grinding like a couple lesbians? And then at the end of the movie, they do it, all given. And one of the characters is gay, by the way. Surprise, surprise. And this movie came out before, as I mentioned earlier in the previous stream at the Big Nose of London's channel. This movie came out right before Disney came out publicly and said, yes, we're going to groom your children. So, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. And there's a lot to do. There's a lot to research. I can't do it all on my own. It takes me all I have to just watch 5 minutes of a movie these days. It's just too much emotionally. But anyway, all right, at the 41-minute marker. This is our first step into womanhood, and we have to do it together. I'm in, girls. Sleep over at my house. You can argue that's a normal conversation, but in context, there's some red flags here. At the 42-minute marker. Just a little hit. It's so cute. All right, so what this little Asian girl, what's she looking at and like twiddling her fingers and pointing toward? Her crotch. Just a hit? It's so cute. I'm sorry, I'm getting nauseous. All right, at the 1 hour and 13-minute marker, they go all now sneak off to boy band. And the kid on the left, as you can see, has got the earring on in both ears and the right too. He's shouting, I love you, man. And you can tell he's like a bit gayish. They made him look gay. Yeah, to say the least. Okay. Yeah, I thank you for that. I try to keep it entertaining, but also you have no idea how much I bite my tongue. I get myself in trouble. All right, so this is from another movie that came out right after Turning Red. Yeah, again, this is Lightyear from the sequel. This is like a sequel, and near the middle beginning of the movie, the Lightyear character is going through all these things, and he's seeing these stages of development in his family, and yeah, and so you have the mother who was single at the time. Now she has a girlfriend later in life, and they're giving each other a kiss. Again, this is a children's movie. This was right after Disney announced it, but they had already made this movie and edited it when they made an announcement that they're going to be grooming children, and they went right for the gusto, no holds bar, no holding back. Okay. In the standard anti-Christian rhetoric, I know some guys are atheists, and I appreciate, by the way, those of you that are whatever, how you want to label it, struggling, whatever, don't like Christianity, that are being respectful toward me and others, greatly appreciated. One of my best friends is a militant atheist, but he's even helped me edit a fundraising video for a Christian student org. So you can argue he's generally open-minded and open-hearted. So I appreciate that. But anyway, I know the rhetoric is that Hollywood, or at least Christians, are brainwashed. And I challenge anyone who makes that argument. How do you say that they're brainwashed? I mean, what is your, let's call it proof. What is your proof for that? Based on what are you making an argument? I conversely am arguing that and showing, and this has been a rude awakening for me. Just so you guys know, I'm a guy who has had, like, if those who are familiar with comic books, I had over a dozen long boxes of comics. I'm talking the first 100 original, X-Men, Avengers, Spider-Man, I mean, you name it, the whole 9 yards on. I'm also a guy who was a DJ for a minute. I learned from one of the best on how to manipulate crowds through music and put that to the test. I had, like, not only thugs singing the Birds and the Bees or Garth Brooks. I've had bikers, doing the same things just through manipulation of music, just to put it to the test. I've also, as far as being a movie buff, I was the guy growing up that stayed through the entire credits because I was in such an awe of these movies, these productions, that I wanted to see all these people, who they are and what they're involved. So I was a complete geek there too. But it's been a rude awakening. At the turn of the century, I was given a challenge by another media buff, it just so happens. Back then he had over, I think it was like 1,000 DVDs, which, DVDs was back then. I mean, 1,000 DVDs, that's a lot. He had a lot of DVDs. Anyways, but he still presented this challenge to me. He said, Nick, when you see the cross in the movie, what's going on? Who's being introduced? What's taking place at that moment? And I was like, okay. So I took that challenge seriously. And for the next few years, I started paying attention to when the cross was displayed in a movie. And sure enough, every single time, I'm not exaggerating, folks, every single time, either something bad was about to happen, the turning point of the movie or the major plot turning point, or the main villain or a villain was being introduced. Every single time. And not only that, it was always either forefront, background, center point. Subliminal. But again, I'm showing you guys this so you can see for yourselves. So let's run through it real quick. Even in this Disney movie, at 3, the girls go, heaven, and they're drooling. Okay, you guys can say it's a small thing, but again, keep it in context. When it's habitual, when it's movie after movie after movie, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, you can no longer say it's just a coincidence. It's obviously, at the very least, systematic, if not systemic. And heaven is one thing that redefined. Miracle is another. They've undermined and redefined. At 8-minute marker, instead of honoring our God, we honor our ancestors. So this is actually an attack on Orthodox Christianity, by the way, the iconoclastic kind of thing. It just so happens. That's just a coincidence, I'm sure. Yet another coincidence. How about that? At the 24-minute marker, oh my God. And I know people are going to say, okay, everyone says, oh my God. Well, why do you say, oh my God? How did that become part of your vocabulary? Again, a 42-minute marker. Oh my God. Notice, by the way, the setting. Why are these girls always in the bathroom? And they're always in the bathroom in this movie. They're always going back to this bathroom scene. What the heck is going on there? All right. At 43-minute marker, again, oh my God, pushing the cell phone use, and those who have a cell phone and get the privilege of seeing the panda. That's a whole other discussion I'm not going to get into right now. I don't want to get off on a tangent just because of the sake of time. At the 1 hour and 13-minute marker, again, oh my God, talking about the boy band, which, by the way, it's Four-Town with a 5-band member. What's Four-Town? What does that mean? And the star and all that. I'm not getting off on tangents, so I want to at least pose that question. At the 1 hour and 14-minute marker, what the hell is this supposed to be? This is the boy band as angels. And if you watch the movie, I can't show clips because YouTube will block it. But if you watch the movie, again, at the 1 hour and 14-minute marker, you'll see these guys are gyrating and all that to little girls. And they're supposed to be angels. And I've got all kinds of other things going on there, too. All right, so that's the stuff for the most part. There's a couple of other things that I've left out, but at any rate, that's the gist of it. They're directly related to Christianity. Now let's go to the next step, which happens. You go from, for some people, they go from, being mad at God, becoming agnostic, atheist, hating the church and all that, to embracing paganism, some form of paganism. It just so happens. I'm not saying that for everyone, but that's quite a common pattern, in all fairness. All right, at the 6-minute marker. So they have a temple. Again, it's a religion, no big deal. But why is all the Christian stuff negative, yet all this pagan stuff is positive? At the 7-minute marker, okay, so now they're burning incense unto their ancestors, which they obviously idolize, worship. Again, they're talking about spiritual intervention and they're coming back to life and all these kinds of things. It's quite demonic. At the 16-minute marker, literally they're showing demons flying around as this power takes over and she's getting possessed in her dream by these ancestors. At the 27-minute marker, she is talking about her ancestor, and this is the mother talking. She's talking about her ancestor. She loved them so much that she asked the gods to turn her into one. So she's talking about how they got these magic powers of becoming a panda. So they're not just talking about coming of age, but pro-paganism as well. At the 28-minute marker, this is a demon possession going on, and she's calling it a blessing. And she's also saying that being in a new world is an inconvenience. This is literally verbatim. This is, again, CRT. So the Chinese will argue that the Native American Indians are actually Chinese. I don't know if you guys are aware of that or not. That's what the argument is. But meanwhile, the white Europeans that colonized the New World is a problem. And that's what this thing is. Again, I'm a writer, people. I also have written scripts, movie scripts too. I do have some experience, I failed to mention, with movie production, and I know real, actual professional movie makers scoff at this, but student films, and I've been educated in that department too. At any rate, yeah, this is not a coincidence using this verbiage. At the 29-minute marker, again, we're talking about writers, writing and rewrites, directing, editing, producers watching and the screen and putting their seal of approval on it. None of this stuff is a coincidence. All the resources they invested. At the 29-minute marker, Red Moon Ritual can capture the red panda spirit into an amulet. All right, of course, that's not pagan. At the 32-minute marker, the supernatural is genetic, all right? And we've been hearing that a lot lately, this rhetoric in mass media, how these pagan powers as of Wicca and so on, it runs in the family. It's genetic. Even the Star Wars movies, went from the original trilogy was spiritual, and they went from spiritual to genetics. Well, now if you have the chromosomes, you now can have the force. At the 38-minute marker, again, satanic Masonic hand gestures. You see that throughout the movie, all throughout the movie. At the 42-minute marker, I'll give you anything, money, my kidney, my soul. Okay. Right. So they can interact with the red panda. At the 1 hour and 7-minute marker, this is a seance, people. A seance, so the mother now can invoke her panda powers and save the day. At the 1 hour and 13-minute marker, again, that hand gesture. Some might argue, well, this is I love you, but all right. Either way. That's going back to the pedo stuff, but I don't know. Well, it just so happens she's pointing at this girl who's now like doing this eyes rolled up in her head, seizure kind of thing. Does that sound familiar? Not being able to discern the difference between a seizure and demonic possession? Anyone in these circles? We've talked about that. Who else has described that? In fact, this Big Nose of London's stream was about the cave. Wasn't he having a seizure? All right, people. So to wrap it all up, and this is a spiritual warfare. And again, this is from a Christian perspective, but the evidence is overwhelming. And I encourage all of you to watch my previous work on this, including my latest shorts. I've been focusing on trying to cram this information in a 1-minute short, which takes a lot of extra work, by the way. But it's all there. I mean, again, to see for yourself. I'm not asking you to take my word for it. Take a look and be honest with yourself about what you see. I mean, who's really being brainwashed and to what end? How have we allowed all this stuff to happen? How have we gotten into the place where, by the way, in the UK, Islam has taken over? The UK has been ahead of all kinds of things worldwide. And now Islam has taken it over? How was that allowed? How have the British, and I'm not condemning you for, I'm asking you to think about this. How is it that the British allowed Great Britain to get to this state of affairs? And of course, I'm coming to the end of the presentation, and my folks backstage have disappeared. Kitty Layson. I hope I didn't scare them off. But all right. Anyway, so the church, the Satanic Church of California, Satanic Temple, their goal, their agenda is called uncreation. It's to do the exact opposite of Christianity or of Judeo-Christianity, including breaking the commandments, but the exact opposite of Christ teaches. So we see all these patterns here of people doing the exact opposite of reality. Is that a coincidence? Yeah, and I completely agree with you, Rain. It is part of agenda. But there's forgive me for using a movie scene since I'm so anti-mass media these days. And again, this is just a recent transformation for me. It's just only recently that I finally said, you know what? I've had enough. I can't lie to myself anymore. This wasn't like in 2018, let's say, give or take. And so finally, I said, I committed myself, again, the PhD pursuit, but also doing it online, to exposing what I've learned for 2 decades, what I've studied. I've got a master's degree. You know, I've again, student films on and on. I would have been, shot myself up in the foot. I would have even been an extra in one of the movies. I've watched professional movies, TV shows being made, and on and on. Anyway, yeah, I just can't. I mean, someone who's had this much experience, for those who are familiar with Scripture, I feel like the person who is in danger of having the talent and bearing it, and I can't do that. It's so therefore it's an immoral imperative for me to be honest and open about what I've experienced, what I've learned, and what's really going on. Again, I also have a psychology degree, top of my class. So I also am familiar with that aspect. education in education, how people are taught, how they learn, how they're conditioned. I learned how to make apps, design them, implement them, evaluate them. When they first came out, when the internet wasn't even part of apps. From the very beginning, I learned these things. And I knew and saw the trends coming of what was going on with cell phones. So forgive me for sounding like a know-it-all, but in all fairness, I do know a bit. And I feel an obligation now to convert to what I consider blessings into a benefit, a warning for others. Like, hey, people, come on, man. Please, for the love of God, for the love of yourselves and each other, let's get out there. Let's get open. I mean, it's not, look, as a Christian, I believe this too shall come to pass. It's going to happen. But that doesn't mean that we're all going to have to suffer a certain way because of it, or we have to allow it, or keep our mouths shut. Yeah. I mean, there's Agenda 21 too. I encourage Daniel and everyone to look into that as well. That's a real thing. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's available online from government sources online. Also, speaking of mass media and its influence and brainwashing, I encourage everyone to take a look at, what is it? It's the Manchurian Candidate. I can't actually, you know what? I have it on the tab. It is Project Mockingbird. You may have heard that. I've just recently heard that through Jay Dyer, and I mean recently, maybe a couple of years ago. But when I felt finally validated what I've been saying through empirical quantitative evidence, what I just showed you guys here, tokens you can see for yourself. It turns out this is a real thing. This is not, at least the U.S. government was using media to brainwash people. And also the same thing with the, and this is probably one you have heard of, MK Ultra. This is a controversial one. It's a real thing, though. It's a real thing. These, okay, let me share these. I'm going to share the links in chat so you can see for yourself. But maybe I can show you a glimpse here as well. Which one did I just share with you guys? It's a lot to. Okay, yeah, you got both of them. All right. So those links are in the chat. I'll just go ahead and pop them on screen, the links, not the actual documents themselves, for the sake of time. Oops. Okay. Yeah. So these are real things, folks. And again, we see the Olympic celebrations, Super Bowl halftime celebrations are all demonic. I mean, who's being brainwashed here? Forgive me, but for being blunt. But who's being brainwashed here, and to which end? Yeah, wow. That was the end of my presentation. That went quicker than I thought. Okay, cool. I zipped through it. I hope you guys, when I talk too fast, sometimes people have a hard time understanding what I'm saying. But yeah, I hope you guys were able to keep up with me. My apologies if you weren't able to. All right, so let me look at some of these chats that I missed since I was zipping through it. And anyone wants to come up, please do. Let me send the invite out again. I'll put that in chat right now. Please come up. I feel like I might have scared off a couple people. that makes me feel bad. I hope I'm not being overbearing or whatever. I'm not trying to beat you over the head with this stuff, but I at least want to share, again, vetted facts, things you can see for yourself here. Yeah, so the British didn't allow it as part of an agenda. Yeah, fear porn. Whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that because we are bombarded with fear porn. I mean, that is a thing. But that's actually what I'm combating. So maybe blessed. This is saying. I'm not sure what that means. Can anyone let me know what that means? Say in them stream. I'm not familiar with that. Oh, thank you. Give. Yeah, please subscribe. Yada yada. The fight back began. Establish the facts. Rain. All right. This should get heated. What's up, Rain? Can you hear me? Hey, we can't hear you, buddy.
Sorry, I just had to mute the YouTube because obviously it was hearing double.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks for coming up, man. I appreciate that.
No, pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. So I usually do this at the end of a stream, but people, I guess I intimidate folks, and I try not to be intimidating, but people usually won't come up. So appreciate you coming up.
Yeah,
What do
what
you have
happens is when you are very when you display as much knowledge as you have. Well, we've just listened to you for I think
30 minutes?
30
It
minutes.
was,
So
yeah.
you've spread a lot of different topics and knowledge, and I think maybe what happens is that people may be deterred because they're not sure where exactly they can
Yeah.
enter and like talk about. So yeah, but
Thank you
if
for that
you,
feedback.
yeah, honestly, when I first heard you start speaking, I thought, well, this is kind of sounds like a little bit of a lecture. But
Yeah.
after hearing more of it, I was like, oh, well, okay, yeah, I've got some things I can talk about, but I don't know exactly which I can talk about now because
Whatever.
there's so
Whatever you
much.
want. Man. Yeah.
Well,
Whatever you.
the
Yeah.
topic is BRICS, right?
Well, I mean, I just wanted to, again, I'm not an expert on BRICS. I'm not, I,
Why
so,
is it in the was it the description then?
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, maybe I should, well, I mean, I just wanted to kind of point out how media is being taken over by BRICS. And it's been true for a while. And for me, that's important because media has been, again, you're looking at the
What? Hold
lockdown.
on. Why do you
Mhm.
say that the media's been taken over by BRICS?
It's being taken over. Again, I don't have no
How
definitive
being? What
thing.
do you mean by that? How?
Yeah. So, well, let's look at Sony. Sony is a pretty big company. Is that fair to say?
Sony is China, right?
Well, I mean, so Japan and China are arguably in conflict with each other, but I would say that in recent events, China's kind of dominating Japan. It seems like Japan is also bending knee to China. I could be wrong about that. I'm no expert in geopolitics. I don't want to pretend to be, but that's just the impression I'm getting.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, that was the point. I mean, basically, I started with the 9/11 thing. I mean, and this is what we're all suffering from. This encroachment of Islamists, or let's call them Kuthamites. Let's put that word up there. And are you guys folks familiar with who Kutham is?
Mm-mm.
Oh boy!
Never heard of that.
Oh, fantastic. Who's
Please
who's
tell us.
So I think it's Rob Christian who talks about that primarily. So basically, you ask Muslims what the name of Muhammad is, because Muhammad is a title, not a name. And those that are educated enough recognize that, but they won't answer that, or they can't answer that. Maybe they don't know, but either way they won't answer it.
So when
And
they say the Prophet Muhammad, they are referring to a title, not actually a person.
right, exactly, like God
Interesting.
in all reality, yeah. So yeah, basically, it turns out, and I can't remember. I hate to say it. I should know this as I'm talking about it, but I believe it's from Hadith. I'm not 100% sure about that. It might even be from Tafsir. I'm not 100% sure. But if you search Rob Christian and the word Kutham, then you'll see you'll find a video of him talking about it. But basically, Kutham is Arabic, and this was his nickname growing up. Before they titled him Muhammad, his name was Kutham, and it's basically the filthy, dirty one. Someone who's filled with
Who?
feces. Yeah, exactly.
No, yeah. Who titled him with that?
I think it was. I want to say an uncle. I'm not 100% sure about that. I'm going strictly off of memory. It was a while back that I saw that, but it was family members that labeled him. That was his name growing up. Was Kutham.
Okay, Kuthum. So now, how does this tie into BRICS? Your actual title of the.
Yeah. So basically, I'm starting with this whole, or yeah, I'm starting the stream with, again, a reprise of 9/11 and what we're all suffering from, this Kuthamidian invasion or encroachment, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So, and again, I believe Islam is a powerhouse in BRICS because of the whole petrol thing. And we
because of
see,
the whole petrodollar.
yeah, the petrodollar, yeah. And that seems to be the rhetoric or the driving force initially. At least that's what we see online, is the formation of BRICS because of that. No?
I completely disagree. Yeah, no,
Okay.
I disagree.
All right, go for it.
Well, okay. Where do we start then? Because there's so much to cover over this specific
All right.
topic.
Go for it, man. Because honestly, I'm not an expert on BRICS. Like I said, I need to do research. My thing is
Well,
to.
okay. So BRICS originally came about because of sanctions, the U.S. sanctions. Okay, all right. So after World War II, the U.S. became basically the governor of
Yes.
literally anything money
The
related, right?
police.
Monetary related.
Yeah.
And so they started the Federal Reserve,
Yes.
um,
Thank you for bringing that
the
up.
International Monetary Fund, and used. Okay, and it was a good thing at the time.
Arguably.
Argue, yes, okay, but what has happened recently, as you know, is that they are using that against other countries, so sanctioning. So you can't use Swift, you can't they will impose tariffs, all based on the dollar. And so most countries, in fact all countries, had to exchange, um, sorry, let me rephrase that, had to trade using the dollar. Therefore, exchange rates, and everything was paid for in the dollar, regardless of their currency. They had to use the dollar to exchange, and it goes back to bear bonds and literally everything is exchanged in the dollar. Now, what happened is that um, when the US decides that a country isn't doing what they want them to do, they will impose sanctions. Now, sanctions obviously mean that these countries cannot transact
Hmm.
in a specific manner in order to generate proper currency for their country, and um, it's supposed to be detrimental in order to stop them from growing, right? And what happened in Russia is a good example, and this is the formation of BRICS, by the way. Um, if you impose sanctions, well, when they imposed sanctions on Russia, Russia was like, well, you know what? Screw you guys. We'll just start a new. This is going to go way. This is a rabbit hole. But we'll just start a new currency, actually backed by gold. And this is one of the reasons why Gaddafi was killed, because he wanted to have a currency backed by gold and not just a fake printed US dollar.
Right.
So,
What's a gross
basic.
national? Yeah. Go ahead,
Sorry.
sorry. Yeah. It was like the gross national. What is it? GNP or gross national product or something like that?
The GD the sorry. What's the question?
The currency shifted from gold to like
No,
domestic
no, no,
production.
no. So a long time ago, uh, about World War II or just after, um, they did have a gold-backed currency, but then there was an effort on the US part to take gold away from people and basically start just using a fake commodity, which is just printed money. It means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is basically what happened almost everywhere in the world. Gold exists, obviously, but it was no longer a tied into the commodity of the actual notes. Like the physical note doesn't actually attach to gold anymore. And so what happens is now you can use that, basically owning the Federal Reserve, to just do what you want.
Mm.
Yeah. And so now that is why BRICS is formed. I don't think I completely disagree with you. It's nothing to do with a religion at all. It's got to do with not being subject to being able to be sanctioned by a country that can just do it what they please anymore.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying it's because of religion. I'm saying it just so happens that these nations are pagan. But
Well,
you
but
made the,
I disagree with you. I
yeah,
don't think they are. They're not.
yeah.
Because, like I said, for instance, Russia is mostly Orthodox Christian.
Well,
South Africa, like I said, is Christian, mostly, majority. So
yeah.
how do you say they're pagan? Why?
Well, okay. So yeah, and this is there's going to be some Orthodox Christians out there that are going to get upset with me. But at any rate, so
Oh,
Russia, over the past century has spearheaded communism, and some people would agree, including Russians, by the way, that Putin is still communist.
I don't
That's
think
why,
so.
yeah. I mean, a lot of people disagree with that, but there's other people that argue otherwise. And
Wait,
so,
wait, hold on. You saying that? Why do you say that?
well, I'm quoting Russians here, but here's an example. Here's one that's a common example.
Okay.
Well, you can argue that at the very least he's a dictator, but he is, quote, ex-KGB, but he's also been in power in the same amount of time. And so the Russians are complaining that he's fixing elections, which is
Well, I mean, they have the same. You have the same thing in the US. Like you get
right,
fixed elections.
which
I mean,
which is also becoming communist. And that's another complaint we have
yeah,
in the U.S.
yeah.
So, but the South Africa thing, yeah, I misspoke there. I don't know what's going on with South Africa. I know African nations historically are pagan. I don't know if they've
No,
become
no.
Christianized.
Why? Why do you say that?
I'm sorry, but
Since
Christianity is
which
only
year?
2,000 years old. So were they Christian 3,000 years ago?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Which year? When are you referring to that they are mostly pagan?
Well, I don't know. Again, I don't know the history of
Be-
South. Hold
Oh,
on,
okay.
let me,
So, if you don't know the
but
history, how are you going
but
to
hold
say
on.
that?
Let me answer your question,
Okay.
man. Come on.
Yes,
I'm
yes, yes.
relax.
No, no.
So yeah, so I don't know when they've converted, but I'm saying they do traditionally have a pagan society because that is their roots. So you sound like you're familiar with when they became Christian. When did they become Christian?
Well, I'm not actually familiar with that. What I'm posing the question to you because you said they are. So I
Well,
want to
I
know
just explained
why
myself.
you say it.
Okay, I just explained myself. But all right,
Okay.
so let's
All right.
look it up. All right, go ahead. Let's
Yeah.
look that up. So there's two countries. Brazil, okay, you would argue is Christian. Culture speaking, I know for a fact even the Catholics there practice
I
pagan.
don't know much about Brazil. No, I
Yeah,
don't.
I do. One of my best friends is Brazilian. So at any rate, and I know it doesn't make me an expert on Brazil, but I'm telling you that even the Catholics of Brazil practice things that are voodoo. So there's a lot of arguably non-Christian things going there. So the roots are pagan, but even the modern Christians still practice. They still incorporate these pagan rituals into their worship.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know. Can't speak to that.
So and then there's the rest. I mean, again, China, that was kind of sort of covered in Turning Red, but we talked about it at least on the Big Nose live stream. What's
Hmm.
going on there?
Well, this is goes back to what I said the other night. Um, And the thing is, Christianity basically invaded the world. So
Okay. Hold on.
I
You
have
used the word
let
invaded. Now I'm going to
let
hold your
let
feet to the fire. I'm
yes,
going to
yes,
play
yes, yes,
this game where
yes.
people that people like to argue, and I don't like to argue, by the way.
No,
I like.
well, I'll put this one little point across,
All right, go for it.
because obviously,
I'm just giving
it,
you a hard time, man. Just
okay,
so you know,
let,
I'm doing this in completely good spirit. I'm having actually a good laugh over
no,
here.
me
But
as well, me as well.
okay.
So if you look at the Eastern world back a long time ago, when the basically, let's go back to when there was samurais and feudalism, right?
Hmm.
The 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 Christians had already got over there and established churches to try convert, right?
Hmm.
Now, can you tell me why was that necessary?
I wouldn't use the word necessary either.
Okay, well, okay. Why did they do that?
Well, yeah. So, long story short, it is the Great Commission. So there is a calling to spread Christianity. But
But did they ask them to come over there? No, they didn't. They
how do
just
you know?
appeared there and
How do you
well,
know that?
okay, because they didn't have a telephone or some messages that they can send and say to them, "Hey, we need you over here because we need Christianity." They didn't.
Yeah,
It
but
just
there's
they
still.
appeared in their shores and they, they basically started preaching to them,
Oh,
and
you're talking about the missionaries, the early missionaries.
of course, yes. Well, they
Okay.
had to. There was missionaries before there was established Christianity, right?
Mm.
So did somebody ask them for them to come over there?
No.
No, they just appeared and tried to. Well, this goes like I said, rabbit hole, because after they got there, the missionaries they established some sort of foothold, then somehow managed to create churches and start converting people.
Mm.
And it's completely crazy because these people didn't have any idea of that sort of thing, that existence of that sort of thought process. Even was it needed?
Um, yeah, so let me just say, all missionary work is not the same. Like, for example, early missions to Slav nations.
Yeah,
You asked the question if they were invited. I can't really, I
we're
mean,
not
maybe,
invited. Definitely, we're not invited. They
well,
just they just appeared.
I got to say that Christians gave Slavs a written language. So there was at least some welcoming, at the very least, on the top down, right? If they were
Ah,
going to
okay.
adopt an entire language from
So this
Christians.
this this is like me going and colonizing somewhere and giving them mirrors so that they can see themselves and be like, oh well, okay, cool. That's what happened in Africa.
I don't know what you mean, but like,
You don't. Okay, well I'll explain. So in a lot of historical times, when the I think it was who was it? It was the British. No, it was the Dutch. I think I'm not sure. I might be wrong, but basically showed the indigenous people mirrors so they could see themselves, and they were like so gobsmacked. They were like, "Oh, okay, well, we'll accept anything you want to do because I can now see myself." It's amazing.
yeah, explain it to me like I'm in second grade.
Oh,
Forgive me.
so let okay. Let me try to do that. If I do something, okay. If you're sitting there, I do something that's amazing in front of you
Hmm.
or for you.
Okay.
You think that I'm amazing. You think I'm
Okay.
powerful and strong because I have something that you've never seen before.
Like a magician, an abracadabra magician kind of
Yeah,
thing.
well, let's go with that.
All right.
Then you're gonna say, oh well, you've done this and this and this. You've given me a mirror I can see my face in. I'll give you
Oh, you see me?
my
I
gold.
got you
I'll
now.
give you my
Okay.
gold.
I got it now. All right.
Yeah.
See, you got to
So
explain to me till I was in
the
second grade. I got it now.
the deception of how do we put that into better words? The deception of, well, let's just call it deception because that's what it is.
Deception of, I don't know, using powerful words. First you use invasion, and then you use necessary, and now you're saying deception. But you haven't.
Well, but you have to use the words for what they are. That was a deception.
But you're not clarifying what you mean by deception. You just left
Well,
a
no,
very
well, I gave you an example, didn't I?
of mirrors. You're saying that Christians brought mirrors, and therefore no God.
No. I said that in that specific time, in the specific example I gave you, they brought mirrors, and the people thought they were awesome, so they gave them their gold.
Okay.
So if you can't extrapolate, I don't know.
Well, I mean, to me, that sounds like some people argue. Well, the Native American Indians, they traded using wampum, which were buttons, right?
True.
Okay, but that was their monetary thing. So it was an exchange.
Well,
I don't. Forgive me, but it sounds like a really, really. I mean, let me say reaching, or let me use the word slippery slope. You sound like an educated guy. So when I say slippery slope, I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. Okay. So slippery slope, right? To say that there was an exchange of this and that, and therefore no God.
Yeah. Interesting. Yes. Okay. All right. So slippery slope, therefore no God. But we were talking about BRICS, not God.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think this started because
does that tie into it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, let's go back to that discussion because I think this started because I was saying that there were pagan, at least en route.
Yes, and
you're
I
right.
said there was not. They're not. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So in all fairness, Russia historically would be considered Christian, but more recently, not so much. And then, of course, you need to say India. I mean, hopefully everyone understands India is pagan. So,
yeah, that's why I didn't mention them. I don't know. I think probably mostly. Well, so what is paganism?
Well, should I do the textbook definition?
Yes, so that I can. Yeah, please do that because do we say that Buddhism is paganism?
Well, here. All right. So according to Shake Google, paganism, the state of being pagan. All right, that helped a lot. Pagan characteristics, especially the worship of idols or false gods, or the system of religious opinions and worship maintained by pagans, heathenism. Okay. Okay. Definition number 2: indigenous and polytheistic religions. Okay. And number 3:
yes,
a class of religions.
I already got you. So basically, if anyone disbelieves in the God that you believe in, then they are pagan, because it's
yeah. I mean, you can use that definition that you just used, not the Shake Google definition. By your definition,
no,
you
but
can
that's literally what you just read out.
All right, killing me.
Because a false god is not the one that you believe in.
Well, I would disagree. Let me just, for the sake of time, forgive me. I'm not trying to be evasive here, but I literally in 5 minutes got to be on someone else's channel on their stream.
Okay.
But I just want to address this one question that Jonathan put up, and I apologize for you guys for not getting to the comments. I was like trying to zip through it for the sake of time. So then reading the comments, and I saw that the Big Nose of London was trying to get on earlier. I didn't even see that. My apologies. My biggest apologies there.
Sorry, did I take up your time? I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Again, I thank you for coming up. I mean, I zipped through it so quickly. I did it like with time to spare, which I was not expecting. So this was brilliant.
Can I make a suggestion?
Shoot.
Instead of doing a 30-minute introduction, maybe just try get it like shorter.
Shorter? Yikes!
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because in my point of view, you took like 30 minutes and you went over pretty much like 20 different subjects.
Oh, you mean the content? Have less content?
Yes. And so like there's only so much time and so much people. You've basically kind of shot yourself in the foot. I'm not being mean. No. I
appreciate the feedback. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a habit. As you can see, even when I speak, I'm in mid-sentence. I'm like, oh, well, that reminds me of this thing, and I'll go for other tangent.
And also, you named the subject was BRICS, and so it's like, and then you went like there and then. Yeah. I understand.
So that brings us to. Oops. Let me go back to this guy. And that's why, I mean, basically, I'm trying to wrap it up and again, premise how BRICS is taken over. We can argue that some more, and I'll do another stream on this. And I'm not an expert on BRICS. I didn't even look up, do any research on BRICS. I'm not one of those people that
do some research next time. Before you do it, because it's an interesting topic.
It is.
But you went like a very convoluted way around it.
Speaking of slippery slopes, right? But I do have some arguable evidence behind this. I mean, again, BRICS is a real thing. Their influence in media is, I'm showing, a real thing. So to answer this question, who produced this film? Pedophilia is allowed according to Talmud. I don't know about that. That's an Islamic lie. So this guy must be Muslim. When will you confront the Jays? Anyone know what that means? Does he smoke pot? This guy he likes to smoke the J. What's going on there? Confront the Jays. All right. So, but the Talmud pedophilia thing.
Jays. Maybe he's referring to Jewish people.
You can't say. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Who produced this film? No, I wouldn't say this is a Jewish production. This is a Disney. Yes, that's Jewish. Fair enough. But this is actually teams upon teams upon teams. And this is what I'm talking about. Originally, absolutely. Yes, you're right. You're correct. Walt Disney was Jewish. This was a Jewish company, so on and so forth.
Yes.
But now we're in the 21st century. And the 21st century. Sorry?
Yeah, it still is.
Yeah, and so in the 21st century, you look at the people making these movies. All of a sudden, they're not so Jewish anymore. So that's my argument. And so that wraps it up. Forgive me, I literally got to run. Thank you so much again, Rain, for coming up. I'll do another stream on this. You're more than welcome.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, pleasure here. And everyone's invited to. I'll do this again. Please come up and let's do this again, man. This was wonderful.
Cool.
Thank you, everyone. God bless you. And I'm going to leave you with this this crazy intro. I'm going to do it again as a natural.
Extra.
Yeah. All right. Take care, everyone. God bless.
Cheers.
I see.